Hi everyone, it's Cupcake from James Play Studio, and welcome to the very first talk episode of not Season 6, but, just 2023 content. As promised, I would keep the call around just exclusively for the talks, but I did change the model. So this is the new look. So, for the first talk, as I said, the Calm avatar will have non-VR chat talks. So, the first episode for this year is loud and clear. Today, as recording, is January 10th, 2023. On this day, as recording, Windows 7 long-term support and Windows 8.1 and Internet Explorer are officially discontinued forever. What that means. So let's go with Internet Explorer. I know it already got discontinued on Windows 10 a while ago and it lost support, but 8.1 and 7 do not have Edge. So that was their main browser. So by losing support of Windows 7 and 8.1, that means it's the end of Internet Explorer. We already had a funeral a while ago, but now it's official gone. But now, Windows 7 and 8.1. Let's start with Windows 7. With Windows 7 being discontinued, it's a very new way, that's like a new era. Windows 7 was the most popular operating system after Windows XP, because Windows Vista was a failure, so we needed to accept this, that 7 was everywhere. In schools, you probably used it. At work, you probably used it. At home, you guessed it, you probably used it. Everyone probably owned Windows 7 one way or another, if you were around that time. I'm the only person that I know of that never had 7. I had XP and I went to 8. Vista was a mess and I am the only member of my family that declined Windows 7. It's strange because I like updating stuff today. Windows 7 was polished enough. It was the better XP. It was pretty, useful, plug and play, everything. And it already died in 2020-ish, but old companies begged Microsoft to keep supporting this build because some programs are still running only on Windows 7. So they had like an LTS, a long-term support system, meaning they would support Windows 7 for 3 more years with secure updates if you pay for it. Year 1, which was pack 1 for $100 per computer. Year 2, pack 2, which was last year, which was technically 2 years ago, which was $200. And then year 3 was last year, pack 3, which was a whopping $400 for 1 year. But now then, 2023 is the beginning of year 4 for Windows 7, so gone. So I like to say goodbye to Windows 7, even though I personally never used you. I know the legacy you kept around. It's a big deal. So, goodbye. Now we go to Windows 8.1, which is a big deal for me personally. So, like I said, I went from Windows XP to Windows 8. 8 was a garbage disaster that I've tried to forget. I used it on my iMac. I bootcamped on my iMac. It was a 21.5 inch 1080p iMac, 2013 or 2012, like whatever was new when Windows 8 came out. But I used it for school. I was in school and I needed programs that were not available on macOS. So with school help, because I refused to sell my iMac for a PC just for these programs, I bootcamped Windows 8, which was the brand new operating system back then. Because like, yeah, I skipped 7. Now it's the time, because my Windows XP computer died and I got a Mac. So, best of both worlds. I got 8, I installed 8, and it is a pretty operating system, but this device is a mouse and keyboard device. And Windows 8 is purely designed with finger touching. So, after all, with my mouse and stuff, it was ridiculous. But I survived because I had a trackpad, a magic trackpad, so I could at least use the trackpad for stuff. But a year later, Windows 8.1 got released, which was an actual operating system difference. Compared to today, where 8.1 sounds like a software update on top of that, software updates were not an actual thing until Windows 10. Windows 7 and 8 had packs, so you had to like get security updates or buy a new version. So Windows 8.1 was the new version. I spent $80 on that thing, and I installed it and immediately fell in love with it. So start button was nice, then having desktop as the main one, which is nice. It kept basically the good things about Windows 8, but replaced the bad things with Legacy 7. And I liked it. I used Windows 8.1 for a very long time, and I didn't get Windows 10 at launch. I got it like after like the second or the third update, but I kept Windows 8.1 around until I basically just gave up on Windows because I didn't need it anymore. I was done with school, I didn't need those programs, so most were then ported over to the Mac or I found a replacement, so eventually I just said, nah, we don't need it. It's only because of VR chat that I got Windows back, because remember, VR chat is not Mac compatible, but I had my MacBook Pro and I wanted to be in VR chat, so I bootcamped and I installed the latest build of Windows, which was like Windows 10.2 whatever, 10.3, and here I am, Windows 11.1. So I guess I skipped like the first few builds of Windows 10, but I kept 8 around until I was basically the computer that I had it on and it wasn't usable. Windows 8.1 marked a very important deal for me, because the bullying and the abuse that happened through the whole 10-year saga started on that computer, on that operating system. It's a weird thing, but remember, Windows 8.1 is where it started. So in my brain and in my heart and mind, Windows 8.1 will always go in history as the operating system that changed my life for the worst, while Windows 10 was then the operating system that changed my life for the best. You see what like two differences? So now that Windows 8.1 and Windows 7 long-term support Pack 3 and eventually Internet Explorer with them dies, Microsoft at this time of recording only has 4 builds of Windows alive. Windows 10.12 and 10.13 and Windows 11 and Windows 11.1. I know that Windows 12 Beta 1 will be released in March, so that's the 5th build, and Windows 10.12 will lose support in a few months from now. But what will happen once Windows 12 is released in November? Will they then release like an extra build on Windows 10? Because 10 is still getting updates until 2025. So technically they can still release like one final build. And what will happen with 11? But for now, at least with 4 builds, it's smaller and 1 browser. So that's like 1/3 of the operating system being discontinued today and 50% of their browser support. So it's an important era. The era of classic Microsoft Windows is over. Now it's fully Windows 10 and 11. Windows 10 is like a big change in how everything works. And people still use Windows 10. Like normal people, like you guys. Not many people like I am running Windows 11. The most of them are running 10. Because the requirements of getting 11 is impossible. Yep. Anyway, this was my first talk. I appreciate you guys watching this. I will do this a lot with my con. I will talk about topics. So I already know what I'm going to do in March, but let's see what we can do in the future. I'm gonna do 1 talk episode a month with the con. So this was my first and the January talk of this year. I hope you guys have a great time and see you guys in the future for another talk or whatever I do with my other avatars. This is Cupcake from James Play Studio with my new model for the first time, signing out the talk show beginning era of 2023. Remember to eat your cupcakes and stay hydrated. And as always, goodbye. Bye bye.